Hi, my name is Commissioner John Montillo. I'm running for re-election with a new team for the Board of Commissioners election here in Lyndhurst on May 13th. I'm sitting here at a round table with the candidates that I'm running with, Mr. Darius Hughes, Roddy Marino, Teresa Sedlock, and Dominic Abate. We're sitting here to discuss the vision that we see for Lyndhurst. So I just wanted to start off the conversation, maybe just a little something about yourself, why you chose to run, why you accepted when I asked you to run on this ticket. Darius, I'll start with you.
Yeah, as you know, John, and I'm sure most of the voters know, I ran for commissioner 2 other times. It was a great process, but it was kind of futile to run by yourself in town. I want to say there's only been 3 or 4 times in the history of the town where an individual candidate ran and was elected. I made a decision. I was either never going to run again or I was going to run with a team. Okay, and the team that I was going to choose to run with had to be a competent team who had the possibility of actually getting elected. Why would I want to run? People said, you're nuts. Why would you put yourself through this? Why would I put myself through this? The town has reached a crossroads, okay, and we have a choice. We could either continue down the road we've been going down now for 16 years, or we can go in a different direction. And putting myself in this position, I would like to try and move the town in a different direction with the help of a sitting commissioner, with the help of 3 very competent and able people to do that. You know, our slogan has been the change we need. It's not just a slogan; it's something I believe in deeply. That's why I made this move. You know, if I thought I was going to be in it to lose, I wouldn't be running. Okay, I'm in this to win. How about you, Rod? What do you think?
That's it, man. Same thing, Coach. Born and raised. I ran 12 years ago. It was a great learning experience. When Commissioner John Montillo called me, I was 110% all in. You know, I love Lyndhurst. And no matter what, I want my kids and grandkids to call this home for generations to come, because this is where my family's called home.
What's your background, Rod?
So,
what do you bring to the ticket and the town? Your background as far as what you do for a living.
Absolutely. So I am a superintendent of Veolia Water, North America. We are the largest water utility within northern New Jersey. So that's Hudson and Bergen counties. So I manage 40 to 50 employees, all union. I started my career at the age of 19. I worked my way up, starting in Jersey City as a laborer. I moved over to the utility division, which is in, we call it, at the time was called Suez Water. Then we changed over to Veolia, but I started as a laborer. I did 8 years as a union shop steward. Those guys are local 375 Utility Workers Union of America. I took an opportunity to become a supervisor. Totally different from being a union employee to management. I learned the ropes, I learned the contract, and then from there I became superintendent. And now I run a department which is called the Construction Department of System Maintenance.
Excellent, excellent. And Teresa, I know you're a small business owner like myself. And how long you been in business, and what is the background?
I've been in business for myself 30 plus years, and I own and operate 2 businesses. So it's I do payroll. I'm a locksmith.
So you have that trade behind you, and listen, operating a business, being a business owner, and actually doing the work, 2 totally different things. So you see both sides of the fence. Again, being another small business owner here in town, it presents some type of a challenge sometimes.
Being a locksmith, I get into a lot of houses and talk to a lot of people. And there's a lot of concern about what has been happening in town. So I'd like to see if we can address some of the problems.
What would you say is one of the major concerns that you've talked with residents here in town, whether it be on the campaign trail or whether it be just in passing, or when you happen to go maybe do a service call at somebody's home? Because I know you interact with a lot of people here in the community.
It's funny. Actually, it's about the trees in the town that are coming down and not going back up. They're concerned because the trees beautify the town and they give us shade and protection, and they're not replacing them.
So the fact that the community is kind of looking more urban than suburban, like when we had grown up in the community, is something that you've heard a lot about.
Yes, and they want to keep it suburban.
Yeah, I think I would agree with you. I think a lot of the people that I've spoken to as well have definitely talked about the condition of the major streets in town: Ridge Road, Stuyvesant Avenue, Valley Brook Avenue. There is definitely something missing, and one of those things that are missing are trees.
Yeah.
I agree.
I think Dom knows a little bit of the difference between urban and suburban. Where did you come from originally, Dom?
So yeah, as you know, I grew up half my life in Italy. My parents came here to this country when I was a little older. We moved to New York. So moving from New York, living in New York with that congestion, it's a totally different environment from when I moved here to Lyndhurst, where I met my wife and fell in love with this town and ended up getting married and having my two beautiful daughters that end up being raised here and going to school in the school systems.
You also, I know you're active in the community. I mean, you're probably the newest one on this team to the community, with us being lifelong residents. You being a new member of the community. I know you chose to kind of become involved.
Absolutely, I love this community so much that I got involved with, like you said, with the fire department. I'm a volunteer fireman, and we're here in Lyndhurst. I'm the captain of the Lyndhurst Dive Rescue Team, and part with the Knights of Columbus and Lyndhurst Municipal Alliance. So
you've been an active.
So I've been active, constantly active with the town, and it's.
Plus United States Coast Guard too, right?
And plus I served as a communication officer and vice flotilla commander for the Coast Guard Auxiliary, Sector 1, New York.
Excellent.
So, yes. Like Roddy mentioned before, I would like to see my kids and hopefully one day my grandkids grow up in this town. And being now second term member of the school system, I've been 5 years on the Board of Education now. And one of the things I learned is being on the board is coming onto the board. You don't know till you get into that position, and you learn all the things, the flaws and stuff, what you can fix, like what you can do and what you can't do. So learning the stuff that you do and make that change, it was absolutely amazing. So if I could do something like that being in the town, jump on this team and working with this team, I should say, and be able to make those changes like I did on the board, that's an accomplishment I will love.
What was it like to be Board of Ed president, Dom? Was that
It was a challenge, let me tell you. I had to put up with a lot of phone calls, late night phone calls. At the beginning it was a lot. We had the Lyndhurst Board of Education was facing a lot of hard timeships, especially coming out of COVID too. So it was a challenge, but I learned a lot from it, and I'm hopefully moving forward. And one of the things I learned is the voice of the people, the parents, and listen to them and see what that was my main thing. And hopefully I can do the same thing, be on this team, be the people's voice too. Listen to them.
So being having a background as the Lyndhurst Board of Education president was a good stepping stone for you to kind of become a commissioner here in town.
Absolutely.
Right.
Yep.
And Rod, so with your background, I know with your extensive background in infrastructure, I mean, what are some of the things that you would like to see changed in Lyndhurst, with regarding the infrastructure here in town?
So one of the biggest things is in the last couple of years, we've had public service come in and do a whole high pressure main upgrade to an infrastructure system.
So the bottom line is that the utility company came into town, as everybody had seen throughout the last few years, where they wound up replacing all of the high pressure gas lines to pretty much every building in the township.
And with doing so, they came back and they paved half streets, where here's a picture. This is Chase and Page Avenue. That's a public service trench, high gas, and that's how they leave it. So one thing that I would like to implement is a stronger ordinance. When utilities come in, we hold them accountable, and they have to go curb to curb, corner to corner, so we don't get those roads that look like that.
And the fact that if we held the utility companies accountable for when they did their upgrades in our town, they would be responsible for the restoration of our roads.
Absolutely. So after they would be done, they would meet with our engineering firm, they would have to work with our ordinances, and they would have to restore those roads on their dime, not the taxpayer's dime.
And you know, one of the other things that I wanted to bring up with you is, you know, we have all been notified as residents about the lead line replacement that is going to be required within the next, now it's 7 years as of 3 years ago. So it was a 10-year program, and I think we're about 3 years into it. And within the next 7 years, all of the lead lines have to be replaced. Now, you know, the fact that we still have to replace all these lead lines in town after a significant portion of the town was, even if half paved, the fact that we have to rip up some of those paved roads, it's kind of
Yeah, it's not fun.
it's
You know,
inexcusable.
it's inexcusable. You know, we should have had some pre-construction meetings internally with, you know, our public service, our water utility, and basically came up with a plan to where let public service come in, let them upgrade their infrastructure, and right behind them, we come in and upgrade our infrastructure so the road is restored together, where public service covers half or we cover half. Or if we had those ordinances that public service came first, they would be responsible from curb to curb, corner to corner.
So with better planning, we could have definitely capitalized on the public service upgrade and incorporated that to some degree with our water infrastructure project that we are required to do.
Absolutely, and we have until 2031 to get the lead out. You know, and this is a picture of a resident's lead line. I don't know if you guys know what a lead water line looks like. That's a lead water line coming out of a resident's house to a water meter. And I know from my experience that's all over the township. You know, that's something the state wants removed because that's what's in our drinking water goes through that water line right there. And what I would like to do is bring the community in and show them examples of what a lead water line looks like, what a brass water line looks like, what a copper water line looks like, and now they're using plastic. But I think we need to educate our residents of actually what's coming through their walls and maybe educate them of what they have so they could actually get back to us and we can try to get this lead out. Try to meet our requirements by the state before 2031 comes around.
You know, it's interesting though, John, you mentioned again the idea of a plan, right? An organized, systematic plan. 16 years ago, the mayor said that he wanted to execute a restaurant row on Stuyvesant Ave. Great idea, okay? An idea that would have transformed our town. Everyone says, look how nice Park Ave in Rutherford is. We could have that on Stuyvesant Ave. 16 years later, we are not an inch closer to having that restaurant row, and there's one primary reason: there's no parking, okay? There's no plan for parking, there's no parking there. How are people gonna come and eat in town when there's nowhere to park their cars? And this is something that should have been, the mayor said he was going to address it, never has addressed it, and 16 years later, due to a lack of leadership, we have no restaurant row, okay? Valley Brook Ave, no change, Ridge Road, no change, unless you wanna count the vacant buildings as the change. That would be something you could look at, but actual restaurants, actual vibrant people coming into town, there are some, and God bless them for doing it, but they're too few and too far between. It's something that as we need a new leader in the mayor's chair to address that, or it's not going to be addressed. It's proven over 16 years it's not going to be addressed. It's not my opinion. The proof is in the pudding.
So I think we need to address one of the biggest topics of this election is development. And the state of New Jersey's mandate of affordable housing. About 5-6 weeks ago, a letter was sent out finally to the residents advising them of our affordable housing requirements as dictated by the state of New Jersey. We, as a township, owe 90 plus units. We have a 90 plus unit present need of affordable housing. So 350 units of a prospective need. Where are we putting them? Where does that go? Where do those units get built? How? How does that get accomplished? How does our school system support that development? And the fact that we have no plan due to a lack of leadership, and the fact that we as a township are exposed to builders remedy lawsuits is a major problem. It's a major problem. And I will bring up a specific location. You know, we have others out there talking about stopping overdevelopment and not on their watch. Well, I think what's being confused is just completely ignoring the situation and having the responsibility fall on someone else's shoulders and being able to blame either the state or the courts or somebody else and not taking ownership of a challenge. And specifically, we have a property on Ridge Road, the old Vivo restaurant, on Stuyvesant Avenue and Valley Brook Avenue, probably one of the more congested areas in town, where, and this is fact, this is not my opinion, this is not an assumption, this is fact. There are going to be more units built, more residential units built at that location than that property owner had applied for with his last zoning application.
Because we had no plan.
Because there was no plan, no conversation, no discussion, we are exposed to lawsuits. I mean, how do you not have a plan? How do you not, and listen, I had recommended 3 times on 3 separate occasions over the past few years that there needed to be a conversation with that owner and let them know what it is that we need here at that, what works for us at that location, what fits in within our zoning, current zoning ordinances, what fits there. You know, the answer for this administration, the current administration is just, you know, look the other way and, you know, hope it goes away. Well, it's not going away. I mean, it's not going away. This is a problem. This is a big problem. And when you have that kind of exposure and you have that affordable housing component now, and you have that present need of affordable units as dictated by the state of New Jersey, you're exposed. And again, you are going to wind up with more residential units at that property because this administration refused to address the problem. So I don't know how you talk about stopping overdevelopment. Is it just ignoring it?
Well, listen, I mean, the idea of not on our watch, if it wasn't on their watch, whose watch was it? 16 years? If they want to say, well, Commissioner Montillo was part of it, yes, running the parks, Commissioner Montillo will put his parks up against any parks in Bergen County, okay, for what he inherited from other parks commissioners who did an excellent job. But not on their watch. Whose watch would it have been for the past 16 years, if not the mayor's? Teresa, I think you have something that you found. You were telling me before about the...
I did. I'd like to read it to you. While the possibility of new housing in Lyndhurst Meadowlands is uncertain, there is currently no definitive information suggesting a complete halt to future residential development in the area. The New Jersey Sports and Expedition Authority previously restricted housing on landfills within the Meadowlands, but this does not necessarily preclude all future housing developments. However, the focus appears to be shifting toward industrial and commercial projects, such as the recently renovated warehouses at 2 Terminal Road and the proposed 128-room extended stay hotel.
So now with reading that, you know, and the Meadowlands Commission prohibiting residential development on any landfills in the Meadowlands, where are these units supposed to go?
And that was my question. I'd like to know where we're going to put all this housing that they're looking for.
So out of 455, how many residents or how many units will have to be built within the township to meet that standard from the state?
So you have 2 components of the affordable housing. You have 90 some odd units of a present need, okay, and you have 350 some odd units of a prospective need. And again, that was sent out to all of the residents in the community maybe 2 months ago. And with that component, with that requirement rather, and with what you're bringing to the table now with what you've found online, where are these units supposed to be built? So is that where there is any vacant property, this is what we can expect? I mean, I just don't know how we accommodate that type of a need. And I don't know how others can talk about stopping overdevelopment and there be no action. I just don't know. I don't understand what standing up to developers means. Is it just ignoring them and hoping they go away?
Or waiting till you lose them in court?
Yeah. I think the fact that having to blame or being able to blame somebody else for development that you're going to be required to build, it's easier. It's easier if you could just blame it on somebody else. It's easy if you can blame it on the courts or blame it on the state. When you don't have a plan, you're causing the exposure. That's the problem, and that's the change we need.
Agreed.
I agree. I mean, now we have to worry about what she just read. These developers are going to come in and they get the current administration is going to not look into it and let it go, and they're going to end up winning and putting more buildings up.
So one of the things I wanted to actually talk about with this group is tax appeals and how they affect the taxpayer and directly the municipality directly. When you have a property that's assessed, you pay the taxes on that assessment. The fact that the Township of Lyndhurst has many properties that have been in the courts for the past 5 years for tax appeals is completely irresponsible. It's irresponsible, and it's got to change.
Mostly corporate properties.
I'm not talking about the residential properties. I'm specifically talking commercial properties, specifically mostly down the Meadowlands. That's a problem. It's a problem that you have these tax appeals going on for more than 5 years. And I want to explain a little bit about tax appeals and how they affect the township. So when we collect those taxes on those overassessed properties, we, the township, divide the money to the Board of Education, the county, and the library. We distribute that money. When the property owner feels that they've been overassessed or they're paying too much taxes, too much in taxes, they put in a tax appeal. And once that judgment comes, and we owe the property owner money, the township pays for it 100%. We've already distributed the money to the Board of Education. We've already distributed the money to the county. We've already distributed the money to the library. So we've paid everybody else. And now when we have to pay back the money, the township is on the hook for 100% of that. So what's the answer? We just bond for it?
But when you say, what are we talking about here? $100, $1,000? What?
Millions of dollars.
So millions of dollars that have been kept from the taxpayers in this town knowing about. Could it be because there was an election coming up and they didn't want people to know about that these overassessed property values are going to end up costing us as individual taxpayers? Because I can't speak for anyone else, but I know that I pay a lot of money in property taxes. And it would be a problem for me to see that go up dramatically over an issue that was kept quiet for God knows how long. Okay, to me, that's a problem. That's you want to have transparency in government and not to have something poof on May 14th or June 15th, whatever. Oh, and by the way, here comes this next tax bill. That's problematic, right? You said 5 years this has been going on.
we have multiple properties that have 5 years of tax appeals. 5 years before these properties have been settled. 5 years of paying out these overassessed properties. 5 years of distributing to the Board of Education. 5 years of distributing to the county. 5 years of distributing to the library. 5 years.
It's not good.
And once these cases settle, the township's on the hook for 100% of that. I mean, I just think it's irresponsible, and it's, again, just a lack of leadership, and that needs to change.
So with the lack of leadership, the mayor, what's his role with the Board of Commissioners? I know there's 5 commissioners, but how is the mayor selected, and what is his role when he is selected mayor of Lyndhurst?
So we're a commissioned form of government under the Walsh Act. You know, with your question, and actually a lot of the questions that I've gotten from residents out on the campaign trail going door to door, you know, they're not aware of what our form of government is, and how they actually think that they're voting for the mayor, or they think that the top vote getter becomes mayor. You know, that's not the case. So in our form of government, the top 5 vote getters become commissioners. Those 5 commissioners then elect the mayor by majority. Once the mayor is selected, and the only difference between the mayor and a commissioner is that the mayor sets the agenda. The mayor steers the ship, sets the agenda for the Board of Commissioners. That's the difference between a commissioner and the mayor in our form of government.
Yeah, so I spent a lot of time walking with these guys, and one of the people I've walked with the most with has been Roddy, okay? And you've mentioned multiple times how other towns have been able to get these deals in place, but somehow we haven't. I'm not sure.
So there's a lot of municipalities within Bergen and Hudson County that have ordinances that basically the utility companies have to respect by. Before we come in, we have to know what those ordinances are. So, and mostly they're for restorations. So a lot of Hudson County is curb to curb, corner to corner. Same thing with your northern Bergen County and your lower Bergen County towns. That means if I'm digging in front of 216 Ridge Road, I got to go curb to curb, corner to corner, and that's the mill and pave. So that road is getting restored on the back of the utility company. And that's something that I would like to implement, this team would like to implement from day one, is when any utility company comes in, they're going to have to make sure they're restoring those roads properly. And we're going to have to hold them to them, and we're going to have to make sure that our engineers are holding to them as well.
Would it have been impossible to coordinate the lead lines and the street paving happening at the same time? Have other towns done that?
Oh, absolutely. So you have meetings all the time. So a municipality will reach out to, we'll say the water company, the gas company, and say, hey, we're milling and paving these streets. Can you guys get in beforehand and upgrade your infrastructure with new gas mains, water mains, anything? So it's on the back of the municipality to contact these other utilities of what we're doing within the payment limits. So it's something that starts with planning and leadership. So it's something that's definitely possible to do what we're talking about here.
And as far as, you know, Lyndhurst, as you are aware of, Lyndhurst has a water utility here in town. So we take care of our own water utility. I know one of the things that we have talked about is the fact that, you know, this team wants to keep the Lyndhurst water utility.
Oh, absolutely. Listen, those guys are great. Now, one thing about having your own utility in your own backyard, those guys live here. They take pride in their work, and most of them are residents. And having those guys over any utility, where coming from the private sector, I don't know Lyndhurst. I don't know where the valves are. I don't know where your fire hydrants are. I don't know where your large water mains are.
So there's a big benefit to having people that live in the community work in the utility department that serves the community.
Absolutely. They know it better than anybody else, and they will always know it better.
Right. I agree. That's a great point. I'm glad you brought it up.
Yes, sir.
I'll say this to you, and it's something that's really bothered me. The campaign has been an eye-opening experience and something I've enjoyed. But there's aspects of it I don't enjoy, and one of the things that we've heard extensively is that people on this team would be looking to fire people. That's complete nonsense. I say that directly to the camera. I say that to the 4 of you sitting here. It is made up from whole cloth, okay, and there's no one no one on this team, including a sitting commissioner who in his time has never fired anyone because of a political campaign or what sign they didn't put in their lawn or whatever the case might be. I'm looking at you for categorically stating that that is an absolute lie. Anyone who's saying that is lying to their faces, okay? Because unless I never heard it, all right, maybe someone else said it, but in all the time I've spent with you guys, not one time has anyone said, ha, we're going to get rid of or we're going to fire any of this. It's literal nonsense. I can't state it any firmer than that.
We do everything we can for people to keep their jobs because that is how we make a living. And if you know your job, you deserve your job. So, and everybody here, they know their jobs. They know what they're doing, and I don't feel that anybody will be losing anything.
We have a lot of great employees. You know, we have some wonderful department heads. We have some people within each of these departments that are very capable individuals, and you know, it's one of the, and a lot of them do live in the community, and you know, there's a big benefit to working in the township that you live in. You know, there's a lot to be said about that. To close this discussion up, I want to remind everybody the Lyndhurst Board of Commissioners election is on May 13th. Montillo, Hughes, Marino, Sedlock, and Abate. If you believe that Lyndhurst can do better, if you believe that there needs to be a change, the Lyndhurst Pride team is the change we need. May 13th, Lyndhurst Board of Commissioners election. We'll see you at the polls.